Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya 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 Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Go Premande Haribo. Hare Krishna. So this is actually my first time giving a class, so I'm going to be very nervous. There's like so many of you guys are like my seniors. You're my seniors, so apologies for any stuttering and anything. So today, reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 23. So I will repeat one line and then you can repeat after me. Niyatam Sangha Rahitam Niyatam Sangha Rahitam Agradvashta Kritam Agradevasha Kritam Alparpapasuna karma Apala prasuna karma Yatta satikam yukte Yatva satikam yukte Niyatam sangha rahitam Agradeshva kritam Devashta kritam Afala prapusna karma Yatta swatikam uchate. So if anyone like to repeat. Niyatam sangarahitam Raga dveshata kritam yatva sadhukam uchate niyatam sangarahitam agrahate shvakratam Sana karma yatta satkam uchate Nietam sangarahitam aragadveshakratam apala prechana karma yatam satkam uchate. Word for translation. Niyatam, regulated. Sangarahitam, without attachment. Agradvishata, without love or hatred. Kritam, done. Alpa prapusana, by one without desire for fruitive results. Karma, action. Yat, which. Tat, that. Satvikam, in the mode of goodness. Uchate is called. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be the mode of goodness. Purport. Regulated occupational duties as prescribed in scriptures in terms of different orders and divisions of society, performed without attachment or proprietary rights, and therefore without any love or hatred, and performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme, without self-satisfaction or self-gratification, are called actions in the mode of goodness. Om Jnani Tamirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmanitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitam Sha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So when they asked me to do the verse, I was expecting for a bit longer purport, so I could speak something. But it was like 3 lines, same as a verse, and I was like, then I tried to search of like if Prabhupada has given a class on this verse, and he hasn't. So I was like, oh, if Prabhupada has, then I'll just copy and paste the whole class. But this is like one of the rare verses which I couldn't find any classes on, or like class of which I really liked. So one devotee told me, just let's speak about something that stands out to you, and keep it bona fide. So hopefully I'll try to keep it bona fide. So chapter 18 is called the conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. In the first verse of chapter 18, Prabhupada says, the Bhagavad Gita actually finishes in chapter 17. And chapter 18 there's only one question which Arjuna asked at the start, which is kind of the same question which he has asked at the start of Bhagavad Gita, the confusion. He's asking about renunciation and sannyas. So at the start of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wanted to leave everything and go to the battlefield. Leave the battlefield and go to the forest, become a sannyasi. And the whole Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna about, this is not your dharma to take sannyas. You are a warrior, so you have to fight on the battlefield, and you have to be renounced from it, be an instrument. So, chapter 18 so far, it's been a summary. I mean, chapter 18 is like, it's a conclusion anyway, so it's a summary of whole Bhagavad Gita. And so it's very similar to chapter 2, where Krishna is speaking about many, many different topics which he has already covered. So he's talking about renunciation, karma yoga, dhyana yoga. He's talking about 3 modes of mature nature, fruitive activities, sacrifices, prescribed duties to different varna and ashram, which this verse actually goes to varna and ashram, and the 5 factors of action. And also, at the end of chapter 18, Krishna is giving the conclusion, which he has already mentioned before. So, 1866, he gives the conclusion of whole Bhagavad Gita. Just surrender unto him and be fearless. I'll protect you. I'll take care of you. And just surrender unto me. And you don't have to be a sannyasi to surrender unto me. You could do your duties, fight, and offer your results unto me. So why does Krishna repeat the same thing again in chapter 18? When I was looking at this, there was a few things I could find in the purport before this chapter. And one of them was that Krishna is giving final push to Arjuna's doubts. So far, even Arjuna said, like, all my doubts are gone because he's in the universal form. He's heard about devotional service. He has heard about karma yoga, jnana yoga. So Krishna is giving the final push. And Arjuna only has one doubt, which he had at the start, but now it's a bit more refined, where he's talking about, like, he's using like sannyasa and renunciation. He knows the difference between sannyasa and renunciation. So, in one of the purports early in this chapter, Prabhupada compares doubts to demons, and he says Krishna is very expert in killing demons. So, to make sure that Arjuna has understood the essential principles, Krishna is going to kill the final doubt of Arjuna in this chapter. And ultimately, Krishna is speaking chapter 18 to Arjuna to give final reassurance to Arjuna. I've told you everything, and he also said, like, now it's up to you what to do. But he's giving final assurance, like, when I was going to come to the temple, there was a few devotees who were like, yeah, you just have to do it, you know. But then it's like, when you come here, you have to have someone who gives you, like, listen, this is a good time for you, this is the best time of your life. And that's like, you could do the whole thing, you could have heard the whole philosophy, you could have been through the whole thing, the whole Bhagavad Gita. But at the end, before you do something, you need a final reassurance. Like, is this the right thing for me? And I remember before coming, like year before, I had a talk with Kesha Maharaj, and he's like, so you just have to do it, This is your time. This is the best time of your life. And you have to be brave. You have to be courageous. And he said, like, one thing which stood with me is like, now Krishna consciousness is not just some philosophy. Now you have to believe in Krishna. And Krishna is telling the same thing. I've told you the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness, everything, like Raja Vidya, all different sort of knowledges, information, what you speak of. I've showed you the universal form. I've showed you that you're going to win the battle. He showed that Arjuna and the Pandavas are going to be the only ones that are going to be alive, who make it out alive in the universal form. So Krishna is trying to give the final reassurance. So now Krishna just telling Arjuna, listen, just believe in me. Just put your faith into me, and I will look after you. So this verse is part of the conversation into the answer of Arjuna, a question of Arjuna about renunciation sannyas. And Krishna is, so far, text 23, Krishna is breaking down sannyas and renunciation to different aspects. So Krishna is describing how all activities should be performed without attachment and expectation of results, and how it's impossible to just do nothing. So Krishna starts to describe what aspects are regulated, aspects which should be regulated and identified, like a science experiment where you have factors which you have to regulate, factors you have to look into, you have to consider you just can't do something without considering the results or the hypothesis, you could say. So this verse is breaking down renunciation into different aspects, and one of the aspects of renunciation is action. So renunciation, not just to go to forest and just be there, So that was we were having a conversation while having prasadam upstairs, and one devotee was like, "It's all just Maya. Just give up everything. Just go to the forest," And I was like, "Probably it doesn't really quite work like that." Yeah. So I'll break down renunciation into different aspects, and action is one of the main aspects of renunciation, or you could say the foundation of renunciation, where you do perform something, but at the same time you're not attached to it. It's how the verse says, don't be attached to it, and without love or hatred. And so he's breaking down the aspects because we can't jump to the complete renunciation of like just giving up everything, and not giving up everything, giving up to like as offering to Krishna, as our results onto Krishna. So Krishna breaks down action into three modes, and this is mode of goodness. And Krishna is breaking down this because he's trying to elevate the reader, or whoever comes across Bhagavad Gita, that you have to slowly rise to the platform of goodness. And then after you're at the platform of goodness, you could actually renounce your activities as yukta vairagya. So I'll speak a bit about the three modes of mature nature. Because, so there are three modes of mature nature, which I think everyone knows. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. So I was trying to find what they do, why the modes are there, what's the purpose behind the three modes. And there's a few things which I found was that they facilitate the desires and the actions of the conditioned souls. So whatever a soul desires, the three modes of mature nature create a body and the situation for the soul to so-called enjoy in the mature world and suffer. That's one aspect. They give different bodies, create suffering. And the three modes of material nature are like the three primary colors. So it's not like you only have pure goodness or pure ignorance or pure passion. They're always mixed. And because they're always mixed, they create many varieties and diversities. That's why you see there's 8.4 million species of life. So many people have different consciousness. So many people have different desires. So many people want to enjoy in different ways. Some people find it enjoying just to go in the nature for a walk. And for some people that's like walking through hell, you know. I know like someone of course he loves to go to woods and just walk around, and that's what he enjoys. That's one thing. And there's some people who are very passionate. They need to do something all the time. And the three modes of mature nature facilitate all these desires to be fulfilled under the agency of Krishna. And the three modes, they also take care of the mature world of creation, destruction, and annihilation, and like maintenance. The mode of goodness maintains, the mode of ignorance destroys, and mode of passion creates. But ultimately, everything is destroyed in the mature world. And the main reason why the three modes are there is to bind the conditioned souls in the mature world and the night of illusions. So because there are so many varieties, after one of your desires is fulfilled, you have 10 more waiting. So it's like every mode is like a stain, a paint stain, and over lifetimes you are covered by so many impressions of these different modes, different paint stains, and that's why it takes quite a long time to just get out of the illusion. And out of 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, the three modes of mature nature it's the most spoken topic. There's 100 verses which cover the three modes of mature nature by Krishna. And out of all the three modes, Krishna mentions the mode of goodness, or describes the mode of goodness primarily most out of those 100 verses. So why is Krishna spending so much time in describing three modes of mature nature? If anyone wants to like chip in a little bit, you could have a wild guess. And it's just have a guess if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, because even though we are aspiring for the spiritual goal, but we are stuck in this material world, and we have to work our way through this material world. And unless and until we understand these three modes, we can't function properly.
Yeah, that's one thing.
It's prevalent everywhere. Like any activity you do is governed by the three modes of material nature. So in that sense, understanding it helps us to work around it and ultimately work towards goodness.
Yeah, but good mode of goodness is also mature nature, like one of the modes.
But it's like Allah, right? It's not like pure goodness. Like this goodness, there's also a bit aspect of it could be passion, like
Yeah.
mode of goodness is like the airport.
Oh yeah.
Which the flight all over
Haribo. So, something that I found of why Krishna is describing the three modes of mature nature is because Krishna is trying to promote a culture and a lifestyle. So every mode has its own characteristics and a lifestyle which it offers, like a culture you could say. So the mode of goodness, it offers a culture, the basic culture which everyone in the temple follow, and that's one word. So what culture does mode of goodness promote? It's like a slogan for those who stay in the temple. And it's like, so basically Prabhupada has written all these books. Actually, let me read something. This is from Lilamrita I was reading, and it says that Prabhupada, I'll summarize it. So Prabhupada was writing all these Vedic literatures and he was trying to distribute the books in to establish one thing, and that was related to culture. But what kind of culture was it? Which also the mode of goodness promotes. That's not a culture. You could say that comes in this culture, but yeah. Vaishnavism. Yeah, there's this one word I'm looking for, which is like it comes under like Brahmanical Vaishnavism, but so yeah. Sorry. Yeah, there's this one word, which is like the slogan for those who say in the temple. No, I mean it's part of spiritual culture, but it's like a slogan. It comes in the slogan of those who stay in the temple. No, close, but no. Yeah, simplicity. But it comes under simple living, high thinking. So Prabhupada, Satsvarup Maharaj writes how Prabhupada was writing all these books as the basic. He had gained. So he was trying to give first an experience into bringing the most materialistic persons to the standard of renunciation and devotional service. His books therefore reflected these practical realizations. So he came to the West to establish the philosophy, to make us simple, basically. And then Nectar of Instruction, text 2, the whole purport is about, the first line of the purport is like, that's why the first line is, he says, human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. So the mode of goodness is there to create a lifestyle or culture of simplicity. And that comes under Vaishnavism, Brahmanical culture, and humility, everything falls to that or contributes to that. So the culture of simplicity can be... So in this verse, Krishna is talking about action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment or hatred and without desire for fruitive results. So when you're in the mode of goodness, you naturally are not attached as much as someone in mode of passion, always hankering for something, always looking to fulfill desires, satisfy the senses. And without love or hatred, because those who are simple, they treat everyone alike. They don't have any friends or enemies, as the Vaishnavas, Acharyas. And without desire for fruitive results, those in the mode of goodness, they perform actions to help others. In the morning as well, Prabhupada was saying about how Brahmanical culture is there to make others Brahmanas. So the Malechas and Yavanas, they come to the movement, they become Brahmanas, and then they have to make others Brahmanas. And the whole Brahmanical culture is based on simplicity. So there is simple living, high thinking. So there is, you could say, the externals of simple living, high thinking, and then there's the internals. This word mostly talks about the internals, like the emotions, love, hatred, attachment. You can't really see that. But I was reading Nectar of Instruction, verse 2, and it talks about like once devotional service is spoiled, one he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, to over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Sitaram Lakshmana Maran Kishai Shri Gorantai. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, for practicing the scripture rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently, or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. So in the purport, Prabhupada mentions how those who are trying to satisfy their senses are cripple-minded. He also mentioned this word cripple-minded today in his class. So the external, the simplicity looks externally into other endeavors, in not collecting more than necessary, not overeating, not having any possessions more than required. So that's one of the slogans in the ashram, you know. That's how you come and you only have one locker. So there's a couple of times when someone's like, probably your locker's still full, you know. You got too much stuff in a locker, you need to be a bit renounced. So, yeah. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So people, so Krishna is trying to elevate everyone to the mode of goodness eventually, to adapt the simplicity. And when there's simplicity, you're more open to accept Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada describes how simplicity helps one take up to, because if there's no simple living, there can't be high thinking. It has to go hand in hand. You can't have high living and high thinking. It doesn't work. Yeah, so Prabhupada's people have to give up their own sense gratification not to give up sense gratification, but to regulate it, to only have what's necessary. And in the purport of Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada describes how sense gratification isn't only just to yourself. There's people who create sense gratification, and Prabhupada describes it as extended sense gratification, which, so these days there are so many people who like philanthropy work, charity work, who is ultimately, Prabhupada explains how nationalism, humanitarianism, altruism is extended sense gratification. And from a material point of view, it looks very good, and it is good. We should provide everyone with food and a shelter and water, clean water, but it shouldn't come between them and the ultimate goal of their life. So it's good to give someone food, but ultimately you should give them prasad, and also give them create suitable circumstances for them to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so it creates no tangible spiritual values. People are trying so many ways to make so many different cultures. So in my university, I did a whole dissertation about social media influence on Gen Z. And you see, like, Gen Z is like completely off the scale, you know, the amount of cultures, the trends that are there. It's ultimately all for sense gratification. And they're trying to do, the cultures are there as a way to express the duplicity, to be like, so when you read like books like the self-help books, self-development books, they're there to help you, but at the same time they don't provide any spiritual value. So you might have simple living, but then there's no high thinking. Yeah, so many cultures, they ultimately create duplicity in the world, which is the opposite of simplicity. And when you're duplicit, you can't take up to Krishna consciousness, because Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is simple. It's very simple, you might just miss it. So if you're not simple, then it'll be very hard for you to just accept a simple philosophy. So many people out there, they try to establish like, this is so complex, that's why this must be the highest. But it doesn't work like that. And in the Lilamrita, Prabhupada, Satsvaruma was describing how Prabhupada is writing all these books, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, to make it understandable for the common people, for us, because we are very lazy these days, and we need something simple. But when there's something simple, we don't take up to the simplicity. We try to put our own mental speculation onto it. So so people are not accustomed to simple living and high thinking, and therefore they exploit the resources of material nature. They possess more than necessary, and Prabhupada describes how if you put a bag of grains in the street, the animals and the birds will come, they will take a little bit and they will go away. But if a human sees it, they'll take the whole bag and they'll just keep it to themselves. So that's acquiring or possessing more than necessary. That's not simplicity. And yeah, you could say you need to have some grains in the house. Why should you not store something? But you shouldn't have more than necessary. You shouldn't keep more than... So in India, when there's harvest, the farmers, they keep a few bags for themselves, and the rest they trade it off to get something for themselves. Like they'll trade it to get in the old days, they'll trade it to get trade it for a cow, trade it for clothes, cotton, vegetables, fruits. So that's like a bartering transaction, and that way nobody keeps more than necessary. So if you're growing fruits, then you don't keep more than necessary, and that way you're not overly possessive about your fruits and your harvesting. And at the same time, you don't endeavor, because when you have so much, when there's a crop, when you harvest, you're always looking how to get more money from it. So that's probably also Rupa Goswami describes, you shouldn't do over-endeavoring. And that's over-endeavoring to satisfy the senses, to earn some sort of livelihood from which you're just over-endeavoring beyond your necessary needs. Okay, I got 10 minutes. Yeah, and Prabhupada described, there was one conversation with Harisuri Prabhu, I think it was in India somewhere, and it was conversation of how Prabhupada was describing, he was in a village in India, and was describing how these people, there is no scarcity of anything. There's no scarcity, everyone's happy, and everyone's joyful. And Prabhupada describes because they have very simple lives. And we were in India last year, and I went to one bus party, you could say, to obscure villages of Maharashtra. And we went there, and it's you're in dhoti kurta, shaved head, and naturally people are very they come to you and they offer you stuff, they'll be oh, come to my shop, take this, take that. And you go there and you realize these people, they don't really care about social media. Most of them probably have phones which are still have buttons on them, you don't see them around anymore. But it's simple life. There's no, and people you could generally tell they're happy. That when you don't possess more than what's necessary, there's inner satisfaction. You're self-situated, and you can spend more time in the higher purpose of your life. So Prabhupada is not just describing how you should have simple life, but you should also have a life of high thinking. And when you have a simple life, you get more headspace. With that more headspace, you're able to comprehend the philosophy. You're able to devote more time to understanding the philosophy. So yeah, and simple living doesn't mean you go to primitive way of life where you just stay off nothing. You have nothing of your own, and no internet and no computer. I mean, I'm using computer right now, but yeah, you should. It doesn't mean you go to primitive ways of life, because in Bhagavatam, I mean, simplicity is. Prabhupada describes how all these qualities of Vaishnavism, Brahmanical culture, we follow it, and we follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas. And in Bhagavatam, like Swami Manu, he has like this so much opulence. His palaces are like is as equal to Indra. There's so much opulence in it's in Canto 3. And it says that as soon as it's after Swami Manu goes to give his daughter to Kardama Muni, and he comes back, and it describes like he has so much opulence, but at the same time he's wonderful devotee because he has a simple life. So just because you have Swami Manu didn't he use all of that for himself. That's why he was simple. He used it in a service to his praja, his citizens, his residents, or the people he takes care of. So it's nothing wrong to have, but you have to use it to take care of others. If you don't use it, then it's a burden. Okay, the internal aspects of simple living, high thinking, which I already mentioned, which this purport, this verse talks about, which is without attachment or love or hatred, is that we don't have simplicity internally because there's so many insecurities. And when there's insecurities, you try to cover it up with some duplicity. You just make up some sort of culture, and you think that's the best thing. And when you try to fulfill these so-called insecurities, you can't. By external means, you can't fulfill it in the insecurities. So that's one reason why people can't have simple living, because they're trying to fulfill their insecurities. Okay, it's 48 past. So, yeah, I think I would just go back to the verse, the purport. And so, simple living and high thinking, Prabhupada also describes how simple living and high thinking, you can... Simple living, I'm just trying to find the right word. You can practice this in Varna and Ashram. And that's like, I could talk about that, but I don't think I got time. So Prabhupada also describes how simple living and high thinking, you can practice it the best in Varna and Ashram. You have to have a occupation which suits your nature, and an ashram where you find shelter. So when you have shelter and you have something that you can be engaged in, and not just take up dry renunciation, then you can practice simplicity. And you can rise to the mode of goodness, and when you can rise to the mode of goodness, you can take your flight back to go to Vrindavan. Okay. Hare Krishna. So 10 minutes. So maybe 5 minutes. So yeah, if there's any contribution. Are you sure? Okay. Sagar is going to be probably... Yeah, go on.
My question was regarding the trade-off between like simple living and high thinking, and also like planning for the future. Because earlier there was an example here of harvest, right? But then sometimes there are famines and droughts. So in that sense, isn't a contingency plan suitable? And just like another example of that is like especially nowadays, especially for like the grihastha ashram, like raising children, it's a huge expenditure, right? Also,
I'm not Grasa, I don't know.
I'm saying the idea of like saving and planning for the future is also important. So how do we balance that?
So that's why Prabhupada says simple living and high thinking. And in Varna and Ashram, the shelter is Krishna ultimately. So when you practice Varna and Ashram, and Prabhupada says when there is a simplicity and when there is, you don't endeavor for more than necessary, when you don't acquire more than necessary, there's never any shortage of anything. And Prabhupada describes this in the Nectar of Instruction, how there's actually no scarcity in the world. There's only scarcity because people they're all endeavoring and they're possessing more than required. So when everyone is simple living, high thinking, then there's not going to be any scarcity. But that's like very lofty, isn't it? It's not practical.
No, but the point, it makes sense because ideally you have to be carried out from the start, but then due to the
Yeah, that's why you can have like the farmer has some for himself, but then he trades off. You know, it's not like you just give up everything. So yeah. I'll ask Mataji first. Mataji, I have no idea if I will be able to answer your question, but you probably know better than me anyways. But.
My question is, you said that we shouldn't have friends or enemies. But then I was remembering that, in Bhagavatam it says that we should make friendship with the devotees and then, avoid envious people. So how does that work?
We should make friendship with the devotees, but avoiding doesn't mean enemies, right? You don't have to be like, you hate someone just because, like, you could avoid someone without hating them or like them being your enemy. But you'll probably definitely know better than me. But the first was of the Shat Goswami Ashkam. It says how the Goswamis were, what was it? They are the ruffians and the devotees, right? So they're like I forgot the translation, but they're equal to ruffians and the other devotees as well. So it's maybe you could answer. But yeah, that's all I have.
My thought was that it's not that we shouldn't have friends or enemies, but we should be equal to friends and enemies in the sense that, we reciprocate accordingly. And that we try to do good to all of them according to their relationship. So we want to benefit everyone. If they're a friend, we want to help them. If they're an enemy, we also want to help them. And the best way to help them may be to just avoid them so that they don't make offenses.
Yeah. Nectar of Instruction talks about dealings between devotees. So that's one way of making friends. You guys can. It's like one of the aspects is like giving gifts to each other. So if you guys feel compassion, yeah. Thank you.
So Bhagavad says, action performed in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme are called action in the mode of goodness. But I thought they are called action in the mode of pure goodness. How do you understand?
Interesting. So sometimes Krishna also describes mode of goodness as being there was this verse I had somewhere. But he talks about like austerity as a mind and mode of goodness. And I was also talking about like the word simplicity in it. And so the actions should be performed so in the other modes, so in this purport, this is what I think, maybe it's not bona fide, but so in the other modes, in the mode of tamas, in the mode of ignorance, and mode of passion, you don't perform actions for your own sense gratification, you don't perform action for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And that's why Prabhupada mentions in mode of goodness you perform actions for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, and mode of passion and ignorance you perform for your own sense gratification. That's not okay. Yeah.
I also had a question here about the purport. I became a little confused here when Prabhupada says that we should act without any love or hatred, but in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So we always hear that we should perform our services
maybe it's the mature love, right? It's love in the sense of the love in a mature world, maybe, if that's what Prabhupada's talking about. And the other day, Kishore gave a class about Mother's Day, like the love of a mother. And that's like praise of Queen Kunti. She also says like, I'm attached to my children, but it's the love which is not. She says something like, I'm attached to them as not as your devotees, but I'm attached to them as motherly love. So maybe the mature love, maybe that could be one of the things.
Love in the sense of material attachment.
Yeah, without attachment, Prabhupada mentions. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll have a Gaurarti. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaura Bhaktavrind ki jai.
High living. That's not possible. I was like, I stay on the 12th floor, bro. I live high. Flying by this side.
Get one of the one of these two. Oh yeah. Do any of you want to sing? Have you sang it? No, you haven't sung it. Yeah, I'll step.